Good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark, or at least most of the voice of Glenn Clark. Not even most. I'd say like 50-50. Thanks a lot, allergy season. Big shout out to you. Appreciate you. Great to have you stop by. Perfect timing. Got to get through like two more weeks of like hardcore play-by-play season, and then I might have a day where I could rest my voice. And by that point, allergy season will be over for me, so perfectly timed. Obviously, a lot to get into from the weekend. Disappointing weekend for the Birds. I thought a fairly... it's funny. I'm going to write about it today at PressBoxOnline.com. I don't pretend. God bless everybody that still pretends that they like have any idea what they're talking about and tries to give draft grades. In the list of worthless things that we do as an industry, I have for a long time tried to figure out if there's anything more worthless than draft grades. I don't think there is. I'm sure somebody will remind me of something else that's worthless. Like there is nothing more worthless than grading someone's NFL draft.
Cardinals got an A. I think
no one gives a rat's ass.
Seems like a good sign for them, right?
No.
No?
It's make-believe. It's poppycock. It's, at best, it's confirmation bias, right? Like, at best, it's, hey, these are the guys that I liked ahead of time. So you got them, and I like that. That's the best version of draft grades. The far dumber is, I think I know what I can predict the future. It's the thing that I talk about all the time, like when we do gambling content. Like, we have no idea. We have no clue. If we did, I promise you, we'd be doing something else. But we like to have fun with it. And that's what we acknowledge. We acknowledge the concept that it's fun. If you go into draft grades and say, hey, this is nonsense, we have no idea what we're talking about, but let's do it anyway, all good. No problem. Go right ahead. But you have to start with that premise because you have no idea what you're talking about. None of you do. Even the people that spend the most time scouting. So when I react to the Ravens draft, my reaction isn't to breaking down the players themselves because I can like a player plenty. The number of players that I have loved over the years, the Ravens have drafted, and that have not worked out whatsoever. And then on the flip side, the number of guys like Ladarius Webb, who I was like, yeah, really? Him?
NFL.com gave the Ravens an A-.
Who cares?
That seems like a...
No. Stop it. It is worthless. Worthless. Now, that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. When I talk about the draft, I'm talking simply about the strategy. I'm talking my reaction, and I'll write about it today at PressBoxOnline.com. My reaction to the Ravens draft is positive. But that's because, to me, what I'm analyzing is the strategy, the way they went about filling holes, and what their roster looks like now coming out of the draft once the bulk of the work is now done for the offseason. Now, I get it. A year ago, the Ravens did a lot of work after the draft, and a lot of it worked out. And I have reason to think, based on conversations that I've had with folks over there, that they're probably not as confident that they'll be able to fill as many holes. In fairness, they weren't as confident that all of the things they did a year ago were going to work. And, they ended up having one of the most historic late free agency runs in the history of football. But in the conversations I've had, there's been a lot more feeling of, the quality of player just isn't out there this year the way that it was a year ago. We were all down on the quality of player a year ago, to be fair. I don't know if we went back and had the same conversations that I've had with folks inside the Ravens building, and sources, I don't like doing that. It's such bad shtick. If I had those same conversations last June, they might have said the same thing. Like, well, it's worth rolling the dice on this guy, but we don't think he's going to save us. I don't know. But I would tell you that I've had those conversations this year. And yes, I do think they are still going to do more in certain areas. I still think there will be street free agents that will be signed. Obviously, the June 1st thing looms quite large, both for compensatory draft formula and the possibility that could still be post-June 1st cuts that are coming. I still think those two things weigh in. But for the most part, the most significant ways that you're going to go about upgrading your roster are done when draft weekend is over. So when I analyze what the Ravens did in the draft, my analysis is about their strategy in how they drafted, and it's also about what their roster now looks like coming out of the draft. And in that, through that scope, talking with my hands, remember I am Italian.
You are?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I really wish my family would switch back to Colucci. We changed that a couple of generations ago. And
How would a Glenn Colucci?
Colucci is perfect. What a beautiful Dominic DeCoco.
How many things in your life would be different, you think?
God. Life would be better. I think I'd be a movie star, honestly.
Colucci.
Most likely. The most likely scenario is that I would have become a Hollywood star.
How do you spell that?
I believe it was C-A-L. I think it's like David Dellucci, the former Oriole. I think it's like C-A-L-L-U-C-C-I, but it could be one L. Like I feel like when I was young, we went to a big old family reunion at one point in Ohio, and we found out that like some members of the family still used Colucci. Like, okay, now why am I doing this? We're talking football. We have things to do today. What is happening?
I don't know. It fascinates me. I didn't know this.
Well, okay, so there were 3 factions of the family, and one of the factions, so I don't know where, like, I think it's my great-grandparents, where there were 3 brothers or whatever, or it's 3 siblings, and it was like Benedetta, so like a nice Italian name. I think one of them was Carico, and I'm not sure how Italian that name is. I don't know. I just don't know. And then Clark. And I'm like, what the hell, man? And I get it. Like, somebody thought, because at the time it was difficult for immigrants to get jobs and opportunities and all that sort of stuff. So they were like, hey, let's assimilate. We need to assimilate. Drop the Italian-sounding name. Have a nice Clark name. That's a good American name. We can all go work at the steel factory. I'm pretty sure that's what they all did. Or I think they worked at a rubber factory, actually. I think that was what, I swear to God, I'm pretty sure they all worked at there was a rubber factory in Akron, Ohio, and I'm pretty sure every member of my family all worked at the same rubber factory. It's why famously the University of Akron used to play at a stadium called the Rubber Bowl. True story.
Really?
Because that's what they do in Akron, Ohio, is they make rubber
because of
tires.
the Caricos and the Clarks and
The Benedettas.
And the Benedettas.
And the Coluccis. But we're not allowed to be the Coluccis anymore. It's like a couple years ago.
You can do whatever you
At
want.
this point, probably more like 13 years ago, I approached my cousins that are in my generation. I have 1 sister and 4 cousins, and I approached all of them. I said, let's take it back. Let's all commit to it right now.
Storm the castle.
Let's all say we are going to legally change our name back to Colucci, every single one of us, because that name is cooler. And like 2 of my cousins were already like, right, well, we have our dad's married name, so no, like we're not Clarks anymore anyway to begin with. Like, why are you talking to us? Right. You're of no help to me. None. Move on. So then I got 2 male cousins, and I'm like, well, they're the ones. They're the ones. But by that point, they were already in their 40s. And they're like, dude, we're tired. Like, our back hurts. We got no time for any of this. Like, well, I tried. I can't bring it back all by myself. I actually suggested to Mrs. Clark that when she changed her name, that we both change our names. That we both, get that taken care of. She was not interested. Had no. It's a beautiful name, Colucci.
She liked Clark.
I think she just thought it was too much. I think we probably already had like the monogram towels or whatever.
Okay.
At that point, there's no going back. Like it already says the Clarks on the towels. You're like, well, if it says it on the towels, what are we gonna do? How the hell did this happen? What were we doing here?
You started talking with your hands. And,
oh, right, the scope.
derailed
The
everything.
scope. The scope. That's what I was doing because it's like a periscope that I'm looking into. The scope of how I look at the draft is the strategy and the roster coming out of it. And I would tell you, and I'll say it today at PressBoxOnline.com, I'm good. We can nitpick. We could talk about whether or not, in hindsight, maybe they should have been more aggressive to go get their future left tackle in the first round. The guy they ended up coming away with in round 2, Rosengarten, I do think is going to be their right tackle on day one. I think they found in the second round a quality or a capable starting right tackle. So I'm not down on that pick. But knowing that you have already 3/5 of your offensive line turning over this year, and there are serious questions about Ronnie Stanley's future in Baltimore, I thought at the beginning that the priority probably should have been finding a right tackle for this season that you looked at and said, this guy is going to be our left tackle in the next 2 years. And the more I dig in, it's not to say Rosengarten couldn't become that player. Who knows? But the more I dig in, the less confidence I have that he's a future left tackle and more that he's a capable NFL right tackle, which, again, that solves a problem for them. They needed a right tackle next season. Morgan Moses is gone. It was going to be Daniel Fa'alele otherwise. I think this is a better option than Daniel Fa'alele. So, again, in a vacuum, I'm good. I'm good with what the Ravens did. They did seem to get value. I don't know which of these guys are going to prove to be stars, but they seem to get value with their picks, and they addressed their areas of need. They put more players. The only area that they dramatically changed is cornerback depth, right? Like they went from their 4th and 5th guys being Pepe Williams and Jalen Armour-Davis to now their 4th and 5th guys being Arthur Millette and TJ Tampa. That's an upgrade to me. Like they've really changed their cornerback room dramatically. That's a serious upgrade, and you have far more confidence in that position. Not that we thought it was a weakness, but just we thought that it was thin. There's way more confidence in that position. The other areas that we had questions about, the offensive line, I mean, again, I think they found a better option at right tackle. I think that's a good thing. But they didn't dramatically change their offensive line. They didn't do it like, say, the Steelers did.
In the way the board went.
I'm not saying that they had to. Again, I get it. Like, Tyler Guyton went off the board 1 pick before them. There was nobody else sitting at 30 that you said, boy, I love the idea of this being the first-round pick. Still, that's what I'm grading. I'm not grading, was there anybody there? It's the question of what did you do, because this is the last chance to seriously upgrade your roster before the season begins. The Ravens, I do think, are a little bit better in one area, or at least a little bit deeper. I'm still got questions about their guards, right? Like, this kind of locks in at the moment the idea that some combination of Andrew Voorhees and Ben Cleveland are going to be starting guards. Presumably Voorhees to the left, Cleveland to the right. Salah could still factor into that, and there could still be John Simpson was this type of guy a year ago. There could still be a street free agent that ends up into that conversation that they just have more comfort in than they do one of those guys. But I still have questions about the offensive line. Like, the draft didn't all of a sudden make me wake up and say, they got it. All's good there. And again, they had the 30th pick. There's only so much you can do when you have the 30th pick. Add on to that, edge rush was a major area of concern. I think something of Adisa Isaac. I think it was absolutely worth picking him because, and as our buddy Ken Zales pointed out on the radio yesterday, like, the drop-off after that was significant. There wasn't another edge rush picked within the next round. There was a serious drop-off as far as available edge rushers. This draft was not good for edge rushers to begin with. And again, could you have tried to maneuver to make sure you got one of the guys at the top of the draft? I guess. Again, nobody thought it was worth taking one at 30. Chap Robinson was off the board. Nobody really felt confident that the 30th pick was a place that was worth using an edge rusher. Could you have tried to move back up in round 2 to go get a Braswell, somebody like that? You could have. And I would have more confidence in that, but then it would have meant that you wouldn't have been able to get your right tackle. So on the whole, I think they attempted to address multiple areas of need. I think they have a better roster than they had a couple of days ago, although so does most everybody else. Except maybe the Falcons.
They got their quarterback.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. Someday they got their quarterback. I'm good. I'm good with what the Ravens did this weekend. I don't have a hot take that I can offer. I don't think they knocked it out of the ball. Oh, this is the greatest. Nobody has any effing clue. Nothing has ever scarred me like that infamous fourth round. I don't remember what year it was, where they had like 8 picks and all of the I love Daniel Jeremiah. Like the people that were like, this is the greatest round I've ever seen in the history of a draft. And it was like Chris Moore and Willie Henry, and they have nothing to show for it. I think they had like one semi-capable player that came out of that, and it's
Kenneth Dixon.
Alex
Lewis.
Yeah, go ahead. You go right ahead and read through that list of.
Chris Moore was catching touchdown passes a year ago.
Yeah, sure was. I like Chris Moore personally. Great guy. Very involved with Show Your Soft Side.
Tavon Young.
Love him.
He got paid.
Tavon Young was a semi-capable player for a minute.
He got a big second contract.
Keep going.
I think that's it. Willie Henry was the other one.
Yeah. And all of these.
And then they got Matt Judon in the 5th.
Right, that was, by the way, great pick. All of these, I want to say a mean word, but I like all these people. Like they just, you got to remember that this is what they're doing. They're paid to entertain you, so they just say things. It's the greatest draft I've ever. I could not believe how much talent the Ravens came away with in the 4th round. Yeah. How'd that work out for them? Show me the difference maker in that group. Show me anyone that stood out. And for a moment, Tavon Young did. For a moment. Mm-hmm. It was fleeting.
For a summer.
Boy, it was hot and heavy, though. We'll always have those memories. The summer I spent with, never mind. I'm going to write that book later. My summer with Tavon. So I'm scarred by that, and it might be the turning point when I said I refuse to ever play the game anymore, because like I once upon a time did play the game the same way that I'm sure that you think it's worth.
5 Pro Bowlers in the 4th round.
Once upon a time, I pretended like I had any idea what I was talking about, because that was what you thought you had to do in order to work in this business. Like you had to play along with whatever everybody else was doing. It's the hot take nonsense. Like you got to say something strong. There's nothing strong to say about it. I think the Ravens did good things during the course of the NFL draft. I think they did some necessary things. Will those players work out? No one has any idea. Not me, not Griffin, not Dylan, who's sitting in studio with us today, not Daniel Jeremiah, not Mel Kiper, not Charles Davis, who's going to join us later on the program to try to tell us how well he thinks the Ravens did in the draft. Not Eric DeCosta or Ozzie Newsome or John Harbaugh or anyone involved. No one. No one knows. But they did what they thought was best for them to do. And on the outside, I think they did well. Now, this is the bummer. The bummer is we just want to have the Super Bowl be tomorrow. But it don't work that way. You got to wait, and then you'll get your answers. At least for this season. Some of them you won't get answers for this season. Like a year ago, we didn't get an answer on Trenton Simpson. We're still a year later waiting to find out what the answer is on Trenton Simpson. Presumably, we'll get that answer this year. I can't do a whole lot more of it. I imagine trying to break down. Yesterday, Ken Zales was like, let's do some breakdown of the undrafted. No. I love you. I love everybody. I do love Bo Braid. That's my guy. We all know he was just on with us 2 weeks ago. Great dude. Did you text him yet?
Yes.
Okay. Great guy, Bo Braid. Bo Braid was sharing our content the last couple of weeks. Don't know what. Unrelated to him. Was sharing other content. Bo Braid's a fan. It's very, I love that. God bless him. Very happy for him. Sure, he's very bummed out about the fact that he didn't get drafted. That's no bueno. But as you remember, he grew up obsessed with the Ravens, and it's very cool for him that he gets the opportunity to put some purple on and go run around. So does St. Francis alum Jordan Tolles, who famously, man, when he committed to LSU, it was a big deal because he was going to go to LSU and be a two-sport athlete. He was going to play both football and basketball at LSU. I don't know what happened. I didn't follow enough to know what led Jordan Tolles to end up transferring out and coming back to Morgan State. I don't know what the story was. Coming out of high school, he was a rock star. Like, there was a legend of Jordan Tolles. I don't want to compare it to like the legend of Tavon Austin because nothing in this city will ever compare to the legend of Tavon Austin. But like, he was kind of like a folk hero coming out of high school, Jordan Tolles, and just for whatever reason never worked out for him. But he'll get the opportunity to run around in purple too and see if he can't find his way onto an NFL roster moving forward. All right, said everything that I need to say. We'll talk more about the draft when Charles Davis joins us a little bit later on, and who knows, might have some other surprises during the course of the morning. Whew, I am struggling. I gotta be honest with you. I am struggling. I don't know that I've got 2 hours worth of talking in me today. You and Dylan can do the show at some point.
All right. Well, we want to break down the undrafted free agent.
No.
I'll do what I can.
No. Today's show is brought. It's like painful. It's like one of those things where I'm straining just to say the words. F you allergies. F you.
It was definitely. I mean, as I was unlocking the door to come in, I saw there was pollen on the little deadbolts.
Well, and like
on the door. And
I don't know why it's different for everybody because I remember like Rita going through it 2 weeks ago. But when it happens to me,
you lose everything.
It's hell. And again, I don't get a day to rest my voice. I don't get on Saturday. It's also worse on the weekends because then I got to yell at my kids too, on top of everything else. In fact, you could argue it's better if I just have a day full of games because at least I don't have to yell at any point. If I have one game and then I spend the rest of the day with my kids, inevitably I'm going to have to yell at them. They don't listen. They don't hear anything until it's yelled. If I just say, boys, it's time to brush your teeth, it's like I'm not saying anything. It's not until I put the fear of God into them that they think, oh, is Dad saying something? Then they might move. Today's show brought to you by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. We love Atman's. Boy, I could really go for some Atman's soup. It's not that I'm sick. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what it is. I'm not sick at all. It's just allergies. But still, there's just something very comforting about Atman's soup. I'm sorry. Am I supposed to keep talking? I was just thinking about the soup.
They got a pickle bar.
Right. No, I know.
Not
I was
just a pickle bar.
My brain stopped functioning. Yeah, they got a full bar, too, at this Atman's. It's everything you love about the original Atman's, but now with a full bar as well. Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. AtmansDeli.com is the website for you to find out their daily specials. All right, Dylan. Dylan Steinweddle?
Steinweddle. It's
Weddle.
okay.
Close. I tried. Sorry. Dylan Steinweddle. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce some of the Ravens' 7th-round draft pick. I'm not even going to try. I actually looked it up to try to get it right yesterday, and I've already forgotten. I know the other one's Samac. I got that part right.
Yeah.
The 7th-round pick, we'll just go with Kane, the big red monster.
Sanusi,
yeah, that's fair.
You're making something up. You have no idea. You haven't looked it up. You're just reading it the same way anybody else can. Like, we all can read and guess. The idea is that we're supposed to try to get it right, do some research, look up a pronunciation guide from Purdue football, anything along those lines, so that we're not a-holes and we're not just doing what everybody else is doing. Griffin. Well, I can read and guess, too.
I mean, I can't. You don't think I can?
No, I believe you. I believe that you, like everyone else, are capable of reading and guessing what something says. All right, Dylan, your story is Dylan is an intern here at Pressbox this semester. He has been writing up a lot of our interviews and doing some other written content at PressBoxOnline.com. Give me your story, Dylan.
Well, I'm from Westminster, Maryland. I'm attending Loyola University, Maryland right now. I'm a writing major with a minor
Let's
in
go
comms.
Hounds.
Yeah, go Hounds. So I'm going to graduate in May, in a little under a month, and from there, I'm just going to see if I can continue pursuing any writing.
What are you looking to do? Yeah, give me the 5 years from now. You are in a perfect world.
I'm either going to be a published writer or I'm going to be a journalist, one of those two.
You mean like a novelist?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. You can write My Summer with Tavon. I'll work with that. With you on that. It was steam. Well, I always remember that day out by the bridge. Like, it was beautiful. Walking bare feet. I can work with you on that.
Oh, we love that fancy stuff.
Athlete.
Oh yeah. I won the state championship in 2019 back in high school for shot put.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know that was.
If you would have told us that, we would have popped bottles. We would have prepared a celebration.
Yeah. I played football.
Winners Mill? Okay.
Yeah. Go Falcons. Got to give them a shout out. Or
Sure.
My brother who coaches there will kill me. So.
Okay.
What's
your brother's name?
David Steinwettel.
Oh, he works for Ed Block.
Yeah, he does work for
I know. I've met him before, you know.
Yeah, and he's got his own podcast, if you don't mind. Shout out, Opening Kickoff.
Okay.
It's the only podcast I've ever listened to. Shit.
But they don't have many sports at Loyola I could do. I got the football mentality, so I couldn't do basketball.
But you couldn't go. They won the Patriot League in golf this weekend. You couldn't have made the golf team? Patriot League champions, baby. My buddy Chris Beloga leading the way. Let's go Hounds. Love. Obviously, I love everyone that pays me. Let's make that abundantly clear.
Oh no,
I even love the schools that don't pay me for what it's worth. I spread the love around. All right, so you're looking to get into writing. That's what you're doing, and you've been spending your semester with us. Appreciate that. Oh God, you an Orioles fan, Ravens fan?
Oh, I love the Ravens and the O's.
Okay, give me your 2 cents on the draft.
I mean, they did good. I mean,
they did good.
What else am I supposed to say? I mean, I don't know.
Ray Rice, he play nice. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Miss Vice President.
But I like Wiggins. I was upset that Guyton went first, like right before, because I'm just gonna say it. Not a big fan of the Cowboys. It's like, it was like a little twist of the knife beforehand.
That stung. That stung. It was it was the guy. When Jordan Morgan went off earlier, I said, well, that's good news because that could leave Guyton available. And then now, ultimately, it'll be interesting to know, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. We'll never know the answer to that question. I will wonder forever if that's what they were doing or if they mean it. Like they really were always in love with Nate Wiggins. That was just the guy they liked, and need be damned, they were taking Nate Wiggins when they got the opportunity at 30. They'll never tell us that. But in 7 years, 17 years, maybe somebody will tell us that.
Once everyone's out of the league.
Right. When it can no longer impact anyone, no doubt. All right, anything else we should know about you?
Nah, I'm
okay.
not.
Do you enjoy long walks on the beach? Do you?
Of course.
Yeah, all right. Well, there you go. You got that going for you, which is nice. All right. We're going to go 3 up and 3 down when we come back in. It was a brutal weekend for the Orioles. I mean, brutal. I think the definition of brutal. Ugh. So we'll go 3 up and 3 down. After the Orioles went 3 up and 3 down, as always, we want to know who you believe should be our 3 up and 3 down Orioles. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Chime in. Which 3 Orioles were up for you? Which 3 Orioles were down? I guess we do have to add. Here, go ahead. During commercial break, you can do that. We'll put Cole Irvin was man of the match on Saturday. So there was one man of the match from the weekend. So we'll move Gunnar Henderson back up, and we'll put Cole Irvin back on the board. But yuck in general. We'll talk more about the weekend that was for the Baltimore Orioles when we come back in. It's a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well, then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. And we covered the NFL draft in the first segment. We'll spend more time throughout the course of the week getting to know maybe some of the more newer Ravens. But right now, let's get back into the weekend that was for the Orioles because it was wretched. Have we gotten an open done yet for 3 Up and 3 Down?
No, not
yet.
Not
All right.
not
Well, we're
yet.
only 6 weeks in. That's plenty. And just,
like 5 weeks in.
We'll get to that eventually.
We will.
Right by the time the season is over, I'm sure we'll be nailing that. It's time for 3 Up and 3 Down as we look over the Orioles weekend that was. The Orioles lose 2 out of 3 to the Oakland Athletics, despite the fact that they had leads in the 9th inning in all 3 games. Womp. And it's the first time all week that we do 3 Up, 3 Down after a week where they went 3 Up and 3 Down, their first 500 week of the season, as the Orioles won 3 games and lost 3 games over the course of the last week. So, need yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Who deserves the most praise? Who deserves the most criticism? Rank them 3 to 1. That's the way that we do it. Even despite the fact that it was a disappointing week, we'll still begin on the positive side. And, yeah, we just put him up on the board as man of the match from Saturday. Cole Irvin was brilliant. I mean, brilliant. That was look, I get it. The Athletics offense, although it's funny, they came to life plenty on Sunday. The Athletics offense is not particularly impressive. So I don't want to read too much in. A couple of days ago, we were in love with Albert Suarez. Today, Albert Suarez is no longer part of the Orioles rotation. Like, let's not overreact to Cole Irvin. What Cole Irvin has done is earn the right to go make his next start. That's what he's done by putting together 2 really good starts with his rotation life on the line. He's earned the right to make another start, and the Orioles will have to figure that out. It's clear that Suarez is going to be bumped. I mean, I don't know that they said it. I didn't check. There was so much talk about Craig Kimbrell after the game that I didn't really listen to anything else. I don't think that Brandon Hyde would just come out and say it, but it's clear Albert Suarez is not long for the rotation. That was going to be his final start for now. Kyle Bradish is definitely coming in, and it looks like John Means will be coming in as well. So the real question is there another move? Because if there's another move, it can't be Cole Irvin at the moment. You can't turn to Cole Irvin and say, hey, thanks for everything you've done the last couple of starts, but you're gone. He's going to get to make his next start. So whether that means the Orioles, for now, and it kind of works out time-wise because they don't have an off day this week, for now, they probably use a 6-man rotation. And to them, they might say, hey, that's good for us because we're still a little bit worried about, for example, Grayson Rodriguez's innings for the season. And it probably works for them as well because they're going to limit their expectations for how many innings both Bradish and Means can give them in their first start back. Although, again, John Means pitched 7 innings at AAA yesterday. But my guess is the answer will be they go with a 6-man rotation. What will be interesting is, do they really go Bradish and Means back-to-back in a 6-man rotation? That feels aggressive for two guys that are both coming back. So do they make a change? Like right now, they've got their pitchers lined up for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm assuming Bradish goes Thursday.
That was my assumption as well. Yeah,
and then they'd be back at that point. Like I don't think they would want Means to be Friday. I think they'd want Means to be Saturday. If all things being equal, my gut would tell me
throw Irvin on, or
yeah, it'd be Irvin.
Yeah.
Irvin on Friday, and then Means on Saturday, and then kind of reset from there. But basically, that's saying to Cole Irvin on Friday, dude, once again, you're pitching for your spot in the rotation, despite the fact that you put together 2 brilliant starts. Unless something were to happen, I get,
6 days, yeah.
That's the way that it looks to me. And at some point, we're going to have to talk about Dean Kramer. If Cole Irvin continues to pitch like this, then Dean Kramer becomes the guy that's on the hot seat. Like, neither one of them. Dean Kramer was pretty good a year ago, but we're not going to do the bit where we pretend like Dean Kramer is a proven big game, he's the guy type of pitcher at the major league level. He's not. He's capable enough to have warranted a spot in the rotation. But if everybody had been healthy, Dean Kramer would have been the 5th starter in the rotation and would have had to have competed in spring training for his spot against Cole Irvin. There's no path back to the rotation for Tyler Wells. That also becomes clear. Tyler Wells goes to the bullpen whenever he returns. But Cole Irvin has been great in his last 2 starts. There is no denying that. And on Saturday, he was dominant, and Cole Irvin's number 3 for me on my list of 3 up.
I put Irvin a spot a little bit higher just because I thought that
the
start.
2 options are too good. No way.
I have Gunnar as my number 3.
Gunner's my number 2.
Gunnar is my number 3.
Way too good. Way too good.
Gunnar had a great week, and clearly they really, really needed this start from Irvin on Saturday because they were giving up leads in the other 2 games. So it was clear that they needed to hold the A's to, they needed to give themselves a big lead. I thought it was a big spot because it's Cole Irvin. We don't expect him to go 7 innings.
I agree that
and not allow a single
I agree
run.
that he was great. Agreed. Gunnar Henderson had an awesome week.
Gunnar had an
a full
awesome
week. Cole Irvin had a really good start against a bad offense. Now, it was enough to put him on my list. But
the Orioles just lost 2 or 3 to that.
I understand that. But
Cole Irvin might have got swept.
The problem on Friday wasn't the starting pitching. Of course, the problem on Friday was the uniforms. We all know that. Which, as I explained.
Oh, so that'll be okay. That's a preview for the other side of the list here.
It's gotta. I can't. They clearly know, right? Like they know, and it's why they changed the pants on Friday,
which didn't look.
I'll give them credit for that.
I mean,
by
yeah,
the
you
way.
can give them credit.
At least acknowledging the problem. At least saying, look, we're not going to pretend. We're not going to try to bamboozle you and pretend like we don't see the thing that you're seeing. But we gotta wear them. Like it's a baseball, Major League Baseball to create it. We're trying to sell jerseys. Like we don't have a choice. We gotta wear them. No, if there's a fine, David Rubenstein, pay the fine. It's got to be over. You lost to Ross Stripling when you had Corbin Burns on the mound. Over. Never effing again. And I wish, I don't really want to cause strife and turmoil within the organization, but I just wish that one of the veterans on the team would say, you don't have to be crazy. You don't have to blame the uniforms. Again, I'm a realistic person. I understand it's absurd to blame a uniform, but what's also absurd is to ignore the facts. To ignore the fact that they're 5-8 wearing those uniforms while they otherwise have the second best record in baseball in every other game is nonsense. It's bad karma. It's bad juju. You know they think about it every time they put the uniform on. How do they not? Have you ever met a baseball player? They're the most superstitious humans that live. God, it's clear the Orioles were dealing with it. And I give them an amount of credit for that. But it didn't work. They gotta go. Toss them in the dumpster to never be seen again. Go to Major League Baseball. Say, hey, can we have a second chance? Can we design a different City Connect uniform? See if we can get some positive karma from that one. Do whatever you got to do. But don't ever wear those uniforms again. Number 2 was Gunnar Henderson. That to me was obvious. And yes, number 1 was Adley Rutschman, who, my God. Like, it is almost absurd when I look over my shoulder and he's not on the board. Because Adley Rutschman is having a season. And I get it, it's only a month in, so I don't want to, it's funny to use the word season. But holy hell.
He's on base all the time. He gets hits all the time.
All he does is produce.
It's pretty good.
It's hilarious how, going into the year, our conversations about Adley Rutschman were well, offensively, maybe he'll never fully be the guy, but, his value as a catcher combined with being a good enough offensive player. We were doing the Bobby Witt, Adley Rutschman thing a couple weeks ago. Adley Rutschman is a superstar. And this Adley Rutschman is otherworldly. It's difficult to describe how good Adley Rutschman has been this year. But Adley Rutschman, just over the last... God, I'm still straining. I'm sorry. Just over the last 7 days, Adley Rutschman...
10 hits.
Yeah. Why did my numbers suddenly get away? I had the right numbers in front of me, and all of a sudden it went from... I don't know what MLB.com's issue is. Earlier today, they gave me the stats for the last 6 games. Today, I just reset it, and now I only have stats for the last 5 games. Why is that?
He's 10 for 26, so that's 385. He had three runs, 2 homers, and 5 RBI.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah,
good.
It was good.
How many walks?
I didn't have that in front of me. Hold on.
Oh, thanks a lot.
I know.
Now you might have the same problem that I do as you go back and look at the... God. It's been unbelievable, man. Adley Rutschman, number 1 this week for 3.
My number 1 as well. So.
There's no other choice. There was no other choice for this week but Adley Rutschman. Now to the list of the down. And this one was difficult. I will tell you, Colton Cowser, you got lucky this week. Because Colton Cowser absolutely should be on the 10 strikeouts.
He was on my list.
1,000% should be on the list, but it really became the other guys have been around longer, and so the expectation is slightly greater for them than for Colton Cowser. So Colton Cowser gets reprieve on my list. Brutal week. We're all obsessed with Colton Cowser right now. I get it. Brutal week. 10 strikeouts. Awful week, but he gets reprieve. Unfortunately, Cedric Mullins does not. I love Cedric Mullins. I am extraordinarily defensive of Cedric Mullins. And, for the 2 weeks leading up to this, Cedric Mullins reminded everybody what Cedric Mullins is. But then this week, 2 hits. 2 hits for the week for Cedric Mullins. It was not a good week, and that's the reality. The reality is, as much as I like a guy, as much value as I think he has, when we do this, we can only react to what actually happens on the field. And Cedric Mullins came up a lot of times in big spots this week, and I'm used to Cedric Mullins coming up with big hits. He was not the guy that was coming up with the big hits this week. Obviously, he had the home run on Friday night. That was the one good moment that you got from Cedric Mullins, but everything else this week was rough. Cedric Mullins is number 3.
He escaped my list. I did have Cowser as my number 3. I just the strikeouts thing like that was not good.
Bad week.
It was
no getting
very
around
very
it.
bad. And I guess I think slumps are obviously a part of baseball. So I'm confident that Cowser will bounce back. Santander didn't have a great week either.
Did not.
And Mullins. So I guess it's kind of like, is it back-to-back weeks now that Santander, or was that 2 weeks ago that Santander?
No, because Santander was the flip. He was on the bad list, then he was on the good list, then he was on the bad list.
So I
again.
think it's just baseball.
Yes, it's baseball. 100%. It's baseball.
But the strikeouts thing sticks out way more than just a guy having 2 hits on the week. I think so 10 strikeouts.
Look, it was a brutal week for Colton Cowser,
Cowser
and he avoided my list only because he's only been around for a little bit, and he gets reprieve. But if it required there being a lot of other options for this list. Speaking of guys with expectations, my number 2 is Grayson Rodriguez. That stunk. And I don't think that means anything. Grayson Rodriguez goes tonight. I'm good with Grayson Rodriguez being on the mound against the Yankees. I believe in Grayson Rodriguez, but you don't get to pretend like it didn't happen because you like somebody. Grayson Rodriguez stunk. Got rocked in Anaheim. It was so loud. And I think also because it's late at night when the game was being played, like it felt even louder because like my house was silent at 10 o'clock at night. And, like, every piece of contact was loud AF. That was awful. I mean, and it was a parade. It was just never ending. Here's the next guy to go up and smack a 1,000-mile-an-hour exit velocity hit. It was brutal. I don't know if he was tipping. I don't know. I have no idea. It was atrocious and absolutely, like, sometimes the numbers surprise you. I can't believe the numbers weren't worse than they were because it literally felt like everyone who came to the plate was just barreling the ball against Grayson Rodriguez last week in Anaheim. It stunk. Grayson Rodriguez, number 2 on my list.
He's number 2 on my list as well. Not great. 11 hits against that Angels team that doesn't seem to be they're not any different than they have been. It's the Angels.
Yep.
So,
correct. And he just got pounded by them. And then obviously there's no way around it. Craig Kimbrell, of course, is number 1 because this was a bad weekend. Now, the story yesterday, Brandon Hyde talking afterwards. It's funny because I assumed there would be some people that would have Brandon Hyde on their list this week. I think there were too many good options for Brandon Hyde to be on the list, but we all saw the same thing. And, kudos to Kevin Brown and Palmer for how they were talking about it. Like, there was nothing there with Craig Kimbrell yesterday. And after a couple of pitches, Jim Palmer said, well, you got to worry about whether or not he's healthy. And, Brandon Hyde's answer is we go out, we watch him throw, he throws fine, he tells us he's okay. You got to trust your player. But you can see he's only throwing 1 pitch. You can see that. In a 1-run game with the series at stake, you decided to leave out there someone who could only throw 1 pitch. And I get it. This is everybody keeps saying the word Hall of Famer with Craig Kimbrell. Maybe.
I mean, when it's all said and done, he'll have
it's
450 saves.
I understand. Like, the thought is that number, I do not believe Craig Kimbrell is a Hall of Famer. I think, like, he's a Hall of Famer in that if we lower the standard and say that, like, guys that get a certain number of saves just have to get in, then at some point he'll have to get in. I think he's been, at all times, like the 3rd or 4th best closer in baseball. He's never been a game changer to me that demands getting into the Hall of Fame. But the sheer save numbers I get will end up looking like, well, you going to leave that guy out?
Billy Wagner's not in yet.
He's not in yet, no. Okay. But I do think Billy Wagner is going to get in, and I get it. Craig Kimbrell just passed Billy Wagner, and in baseball we tend to be slaves to numbers and say, I think Billy Wagner was a much better pitcher than Craig Kimbrell is. That said, I think if we use words like arguable Hall of Famer or borderline Hall of Famer, I'd be okay with that. Like, I think that there is a Hall of Fame conversation for Craig Kimbrell. I can't believe how blindly we say future Hall of Famer. Really? Like, again, Billy Wagner's not in yet. And Billy Wagner, to me, in every way, is better than Craig Kimbrell. But that said, that's not really the conversation we're having right now. An arguable, a borderline Hall of Famer. The manager goes to the mound. He says, Skip, I'm good. I don't know. Are you going to cause a problem in your clubhouse if you're This is the thing that, like, when we criticize managers, they've got to think about. Losing a game stinks. But you don't know that you're going to lose the game. It might very well be that that ball gets caught on the warning track and all's good. If you lose the game, you're going to have a whole season to try to make up for it. If in that moment you lose the trust and the faith of a critical part of your team and you cause a problem, like if Craig Kimbrell feels like he got emasculated by Brandon Hyde and is pissed off about it, I don't know what that does. And I'm not suggesting that Craig Kimbrell would have thrown a temper tantrum and would have been, acted like a petulant child or anything along those lines. But, like, that relationship is something that Brandon Hyde's got to think about. And ultimately the manager says, I'm going to choose to trust the veteran player who's been through this a lot. I understand his thought process. But it doesn't mean that I give it a pass. We all saw the same thing. And again, kudos. I think it was a great day for Palmer to be on the broadcast because Palmer ain't afraid of anything. For Palmer to say out loud, dude can't throw another pitch. He can't get anything else over right now. He wasn't even getting the fastball over the plate. You can't worry about it. You can't, just because I understand the thought process doesn't mean that I can say it's acceptable. Brandon Hyde does deserve criticism. He saw the same thing everybody else did. It's gotta go. If you can't throw another pitch, I can't leave you out here to try to one pitch your way to getting 3 outs, the 3 most vital outs, and saving this game. And it's not all on Craig Kimbrell, right? Like on Friday night, Ryan McKenna should have caught that ball. Plain and simple. Ryan McKenna should have caught that ball. Hell of a look for the Orioles to turn to Ryan McKenna for his defense. And then here we go again. Here we go. I mean, I know our buddy Paul Valley is like on war on Ryan McKenna. I can't justify Ryan. Ryan McKenna does not have a justified roster spot. Spare me the Met. Well, defensively, there's not enough value here for Ryan McKenna to come in the 9th inning of games. And again, ultimately, that means he's got to hit if you end up giving up a late lead. Can't justify it. And Santander's not a butcher. Like, what is the upgrade? How significant is it? I can't even imagine who would have to be your outfielder for Ryan McKenna to be so much better to be deserving of a roster spot for it. And the argument is, well, you want him there to hit lefties. He doesn't hit lefties in the bigs. In the minor leagues, he's hit lefties. In the major leagues, he's never hit lefties. There's no justifying having him in the lineup over Cedric Mullins. They both hit lefties about the same rate in the majors. You can't justify it. So Ryan McKenna also gets reprieve because there were too many options this week, but got to catch that ball. Like, I'm not putting it all on Craig Kimbrell, but there's clearly a problem. I don't know if we got an update today yet.
I have not seen one. Yeah, and maybe maybe Michael Elias can get launched to #1 this week if he made sure Mason Miller never left Baltimore, and or even the Erceg guy who pitched yesterday. I mean, like, if this Kimbrell issue is going to be an extended, IL stint. So
we'll see. We'll see. All right, those are our 3 up and 3 down for the week. We'll get them up at glennclarkradio.com a little bit later on. Whew. Boy. I could use some steroids. If anybody has them, You're an athlete. You know anybody that uses steroids that can help me out here?
Probably.
You don't have to say it on the air. You can
Okay,
you can write the name down on a sheet of paper. I'm not asking you to get them in trouble, but I could really use some steroids today because I don't know how else. Like it's on fire at the moment. Come back in. Charles Davis will join us. We'll get his thoughts on what the Ravens did in the NFL draft. That's next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we move into hour number 2 of the program. Today's show also brought to you by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone. We are in the final couple of weeks of spring sports season. Get all of the scores, schedules, rankings, play pick'em, and more. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Orioles, Yankees, big 4-game set. First meetings of the season starting tonight. Orioles come in a game behind the Yankees, tied in the loss column. The Orioles have actually played 2 fewer games than the Yankees. Orioles 17-10. The Yankees are 19-10 on the season. They open up that 4-game set tonight. Grayson Rodriguez on the mound for the Birds for the opener, going up against Clark Schmidt with Dean Kramer, Corbin Burns, and TBD, but we believe it will be Kyle Bradish scheduled for the other 3 games. NFL Draft is in the books. Let's find out a little bit more about what our next guest thought of what the Ravens did. Joining us, of course, from NFL Network, and during the season, you see him obviously on CBS. He is our friend, Mr. Charles Davis, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Charles, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. Good to chat with you again. Hope everyone's doing well. As now we hit the post-draft lull, but because this league is so skillful, they just immediately tell you, don't worry about it, folks. We got schedule release coming up.
Yeah, there's always something.
Date to be determined, but it will be in May. So, the league has just got it down to a fine science. Every time you think you're lacking, something comes rolling through.
Charles, I start by acknowledging, I am inclined, based on their history, to typically believe that the Ravens know what they're doing during the course of an NFL draft. And that does not mean that they bat 1,000, right? They've gotten plenty wrong over
no one
the years. But I start with that sort of bias when I go into something, and I look at what their needs were and what the values were of their picks, and just sort of focusing on what they did early on in the draft. My biggest feeling was, okay, I think they did pretty well. I can't pretend like I know, how great of a career Nate Wiggins is going to have, or whether Roger Rosengarten is going to be able to be a right tackle for the next decade or anything along those lines. But my thought process is, I think they did about as well as they could do, short of trying to be dramatic and moving up 20 spots or something like that. What was your overall takeaway for what the Ravens specifically did, obviously leading the way with Nate Wiggins in the first round?
Yeah, I think that, Glenn, it's one of those things you have to keep reminding yourself. Whatever you do, don't take things for granted. Because when it comes to drafting, you simply, in a lot of ways, saying death, taxes, and the Ravens have a good draft. They find a way. Right? They do things. They get players who fit who they are. They know who they are, and they get guys who are going to play like a Raven. And I think they did it again this year. Like I said at one point on air, I don't even know what portion it was. We were probably on the ether at that point. But when Adisa Isaac came off in the 3rd round, I was like, oh, of course, he's a Raven. All right? You watch him play in college. You know the backstory to him, the extra determination he's going to bring to it. It does. You're just like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's start with Nate Wiggins real quick. To get him at 30, it tells you what kind of an unusual draft it is. This is the fastest corner at the combine. Okay, so thus we're going to say the fastest corner in the draft. But he wasn't just a speed merchant. All right, guy who could cover. Tackling is something he'll have to work on. But how many times do we say that about corners? I don't think that he is unwilling. I just think that that's just not been a high priority. And guess what? He's going to learn for it to be a priority. You're not going to play in Baltimore without learning how to put your face in the fan. And I don't think that there's any problem with him doing it. It's just going to be insisted upon. And that's where he's going to have to make the change. Roger Rosengarten, I actually, in my last mock draft, okay, I didn't get this correct, but I put him to San Francisco as their first-round pick at 31. He got beat up a lot, Glenn, because he had a tough time in the college football playoffs. Okay, a few issues there with Texas, a lot of issues with Michigan. But overall, he's a good player. Look at his total body of work. And people see right tackle. Remember, he was protecting the blind side of a left-handed quarterback.
Right.
So I'm eager to see what Baltimore wants to do there, because Ronnie Stanley, we know how good he is, but how healthy has he been? Is this the guy that's going to go over there and spend more time and challenge and, possibly be the swing left tackle? Because I think Faalele is going to get every opportunity to be the right tackle. He fits that description to a T. So we'll see what happens with that. Isaac already talked about. And getting Devontae Walker, the wide receiver, I had discussions with people, actually opined at one point, could Lab McConkey be reunited with Todd Monken, his offense coordinator at Georgia? But you know something? With Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, bigger receivers make sense. It works. It fits. That's where you are. That's why Bateman was a first-rounder. They're hoping to get him going in a consistent fashion. That's why Mark Andrews is his primary target downfield. Bigger guys, bigger catch radius, all those things help a quarterback like Lamar who's constantly on the move. And I don't care how good a quarterback you are, when you're on the move, your accuracy is going to be a little bit tougher. And when you can make one where you throw one downfield where your receiver can make you right because of his build, his catch radius, that's a good thing to have. So I think there's a big part of that with getting Tez Walker in the 4th round who can run, big target, and probably is better than where he got drafted. I like that pick for Baltimore.
Let me follow up on a couple of these guys individually, if I could, Charles. I'll start with Wiggins. The thing that you bring up, the tackling thing, and I think a lot of people have talked about that, but more generically, I feel like the first thing that a lot of people say is he's undersized. Not obviously his height, but he's 180 pounds. I know that matters. I know that you don't want your outside corner who's going to be going up against these big physical NFL wide receivers to only be 180 pounds. I want to assume that that's something that they know and everybody involved knows that they're going to have to put on a little bit of bulk immediately. But how much, and it's good to talk to you because you know a thing or two about the position, right? Like how much does it matter? How is it as big of a deal as it feels like it is, or are we all just kind of brainlessly repeating the same thing because we heard someone say it once and now it's stuck with us?
I don't think it's brainless at all, Glenn. I think it's one of those considerations you take in, those pro-con lists that you have to make every day. Do I want to eat this food? The con is if I do, I'm going to get bigger. But the pro is it gives me energy. You get the idea, right? So what's your pro-con list on it? The speed, ability to play the football, man coverage, and obviously Eric DeCosta and his scouting group said, we believe that he will be a willing tackler for us because you can't play in Baltimore if that person's not going to do that. The rest of the defensive back room will take issue to that.
Right.
So he better come ready to go. The worry you have about 180 pounds, remember Emmanuel Forbes came out of Mississippi State about, 166, 167, and did not play great his rookie year, so everybody's right back to the weight thing. The weight thing is a big deal in certain situations, certain big people you're taking on, maybe some bigger size receivers who might be able to body you off. But there's a lot of times your quickness is going to win those battles too. And by the way, he may be 180 now. As he grows, matures, weight room full-time, being a pro full-time, you might look back at that and say he came in at 180, but he ended up playing at his best at, you get my point.
Sure.
So that's where Baltimore has done their scouting, their homework, and you go with it. Because of every other skill that he has, there's too many pros to let 180 get in the way. Like Ennis Rakestraw from Missouri. I had it mocked to the Ravens in one of my mocks. I did 3. I think it might have been my second one. And I wrote in there, he plays like a Raven. Oh, the ability to play the football, the ability to be involved in everything, all those things, tough, gritty. But he's a pure nickel. Wiggins is an outside guy. And I think that's where Baltimore needed more help was outside, which made him a little bit more attractive in my mind for what Baltimore was looking for.
Charles Davis is with us here on GCR. Charles, you bring up Rosengarten, and that is interesting to me because I had somebody else bring up the idea of, hey, a right tackle at Washington is a little bit more like a left tackle because you're protecting the blind side. But what I was concerned about is I really, I liked Tyler Guyton as much as everybody else did. We all had pipe dreams about Amarius Mims in the last couple of weeks, somehow falling to the Ravens. That didn't happen. But what you bring up is exactly what I thought they needed, which was someone that could be their right tackle this season, but ultimately could end up being the guy they swing over to left tackle post Ronnie Stanley, which looks like that day is coming. And you have more confidence that really could be what Roger Rosengarten is moving forward.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. I obviously haven't talked to Eric DeCosta. I haven't talked to John Harbaugh. But it just makes sense to me. I think he's got good footwork, good balance, plays well with his hands. He does a lot of things well. And there's a right tackle in Atlanta that doesn't get a ton of attention, but he's a really good player. His name's Caleb McGarry.
Yeah.
And he came from University of Washington, right tackle. They're able to leave him there because Jake Matthews has been there about 2 decades, it feels like, playing left tackle with no slowing down. I just feel like this kid plays in a similar fashion, plays with the same type of understanding, ability, smarts of the game. Did he have a tough time in the playoff? Well, I don't know many times that don't have a tough time with good pass rushers, but he adjusted throughout time. He played well in the Pac-12. Remember, that's Latu coming at you from UCLA, and USC's always going to have kids to throw at you, and he played awfully well. I just like him. Now, whether they do have those designs to move him to left tackle, I can't say for sure, but it doesn't make sense to me, Glenn, that there wouldn't be that conversation. Does that make sense?
No.
Ronnie Stanley's been terrific when he's been healthy, but that's the key. There's a caveat every time you mention Ronnie Stanley's name. When he's been healthy,
Correct.
He's a heck of a player, but oftentimes you're not getting him healthy.
It's interesting. The way that you were saying it, you would almost prioritize his development at left tackle and
to me,
and be committed.
If I'm getting him in the second round,
yeah,
that's why I'm doing it. To me, if I'm in that room, I'm making an assumption here, Glenn.
Right.
All right. And one day Eric DeCosta, I might be coming down the hall somewhere and say, "Hi, Eric." He might clothesline me and say, "Hey, man, don't ever assume what I'm doing."
Right.
Okay. But my assumption is that he and his scouting department and the coaches evaluating said to themselves, "There's a chance that this kid could be a left tackle for us as well." That's just my assumption on the whole thing.
That's fascinating to me. That I hope you're right about that. Adisa Isaac, as you bring up, and everybody talks about how, hey, he was even more productive than Chop Robinson. Chop Robinson gets all the attention. My raw, and again, I am an idiot. I didn't even sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But what I see is someone with, we didn't see a lot of different types. He seems like a speed rusher to me, but that's what he brings to the table. And the Ravens, could use sort of an alpha in that group at the moment. I'm not sure that he's that. I think the production is good. How quickly does that translate to the NFL level?
We're going to find out, aren't we? But they went shopping back at the Penn State store again, didn't they?
That's true.
Because isn't there a kid named Owe who came out of Penn State?
Yep.
And unfortunately for him, because his senior year, he didn't scratch in the sacks column, which was stunning that you get a first-round pass rusher with 0 sacks. But his speed and his talent was so overwhelming, he ended up going. And, of course, the Ravens, they do such a good job at developing and coaching. I'll guarantee you they said, hey, he won't be getting 0 sacks here. Okay, we're going to get this thing coached up and off we go. Chop Robinson went through a similar conversation because I kept asking people. I was like, hold on a second. Isaac's numbers are so much better. What am I missing here?
Mm-hmm.
You guys keep touting Robinson. What am I missing? And, everybody had their different things. He only played in this percentage of plays. He did this. He did that. And sometimes after a while, my eyes swim in the back of my head, and I'm like, hold on a minute. If he's that good, he should be getting more plays. That's just where I am on a lot of those things. But I'll buy it, and we'll go. They did the same thing with Owe, continuing to try to develop him. Isaac's numbers are much better than Owe's were. And, yes, he's got a speed element to him, Glenn, but what I see on tape with him is ability to play with a little bit of force as well. All right? He is very good at what we call long-arming people, getting that inside arm up, stabbing you, holding you off, and then turning you just enough so we get what we call half a man. And if I can get to half a man, that gives me that step where my inside leg goes to your outside shoulder, and I've turned my body somewhat sideways and made myself skinny, and I take that hand and I'm past you. He does a lot of that as well. Now, if you just want to give him the full body, then occasionally he'll take his helmet in his chest and put it right in your chest and run you over if you're not balanced. But there's a speed to power element that he has. I like it. Is Chop Robinson a better athlete? Yes. Testing this, that, and everything. But this kid was consistently good at Penn State as well. So it's going to be fun to watch and see how he develops. You did mention alpha. I think I agree with you on that. I don't see him as that alpha pass rusher right out of the gate. Let's see how things develop. There's a little bit of Pernell McPhee in his game, if you remember that.
Okay, highly productive. You'd take Pernell McPhee at the NFL level. And then you brought up Tez Walker. The skills that he has are unbelievable. I think the only question is consistently catching the football.
Yeah.
And it feels like that almost becomes his story at the NFL level. Like if he develops into a guy that can consistently catch the football, he really feels like he could be special. If he doesn't, it certainly doesn't hurt you that the Ravens took him in the 4th round to scratch that and figure out if he can become that guy.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I thought he caught it much better on tape the last half of the North Carolina year,
Okay.
which was the only half he played. And there's something, too, where I think the bouncing around for this kid did him no favors in terms of getting solidified, getting focused, because we've all been in a situation where we have to prove ourselves and prove ourselves quickly and maybe not with as much run-up to something as we might have wanted. Remember back early in our careers, Glenn, when someone called you and said, hey, can you come over and audition for this or do for that? They might have called you and you might have run over in an hour.
Yep.
And I'm not joking. Like, people listen and think, oh, here comes the hyperbole. The answer is no. This happens often, more than what people think. So you don't have a full runway to being prepared, and you got to go over and do it. Do your skills come through? Can you handle your nerves? Does confidence happen? And sometimes we've blown that audition by trying to do too much too fast. I think that with Tez Walker, that last half of the North Carolina year, there was an element of that.
Huh.
He remember he'd gotten sidelined by the NCAA, got to the point where it looked like he wasn't going to play at all, and then all of a sudden they're like, Tez, get a uniform, you're in. What? I can play? I think sometimes shifting those gears is tougher than what people know. I'm giving him a little bit of an out there.
That's fair.
But what really hurt him more than anything was Senior Bowl. Because we're there at Senior Bowl, and he had that first day, and everything went awry. Like, he couldn't catch it, like he dropped a couple early, and then it just kept snowballing. And I think I joked on air, and I didn't, I'm not joking at the kid, but sometimes once everything gets clogged up, hard to relieve it. And here was the kicker. Remember Chevy Chase in Vacation? When they were vacation, the European one, where they were on the roundabout, and he couldn't get off the roundabout.
100%, yes.
Look, hey, kids, look again, Big Ben.
Yeah, right.
Right? He couldn't get off the roundabout to get his hands back going again.
Huh.
Now, as the week went on, he got a little bit better. There were still a few more, and I think that perception lingered with a lot of people. I saw less drops on tape than I saw in that entire week at the Senior Bowl, but I felt like that entire week at the Senior Bowl, he was still trying to make up for lost time.
That's interesting.
And as you said, you get him in the fourth, it's another big targeted kid to give you an opportunity. There's a reason that Baltimore likes those guys, and it's because of the quarterback, style of play, and give themselves better opportunities. I'd love to see Rashad Bateman healthy for an entire year.
Man.
Because what game did we have? Pittsburgh, the one he dropped in the end zone, where he had just come back off of injury again. When you're not consistently practicing, you press for every opportunity that comes through. He fought that ball so hard because here was an opportunity to get going again, and boom, it hits the ground again. And you could feel the frustration all the way back to Baltimore that day. You could feel it in the booth. It's not the kid's not trying. He's trying too hard in a sense because he hasn't been out there enough for his opportunities to feel relaxed. That's my explanation.
I appreciate that's a really thoughtful explanation, Charles, and it's part of what I love about you. And I think the talent is so incredible that yes, go figure it out, and let's see if he, as I brought up, I was doing a radio show yesterday. Once upon a time, Torrey Smith was the guy that everybody said couldn't catch the football, right? This happens where guys they can develop into really being capable of catching the foot. Jacoby Jones got ran out of Houston because he couldn't catch the football, and that turned out pretty freaking well for Baltimore. Hell, Nelson Aguilar a couple years ago. Right. Maybe just need some Charm City air.
Maybe
that's all it takes.
Just how it works out. But real quick before I know we're going to get ready to conclude. TJ Tampa, I love the corner. I love that because we did that game week, was it 17 last year, and Baltimore clinched the first round, the number 1 overall seed against Miami. Remember, corners were going down left and right that day.
That's correct.
By the end of the day, Arthur Mollett was a star, making plays, the whole deal. I knew depth in the secondary was a big deal for Baltimore, and this Tampa kid, who I had rated as a second-round player, getting him in the fourth, tough, hard-nosed kid, can cover, got some length to him. I like him a bunch. And it wouldn't be Baltimore if you're not adding a running back. And Rasheen Ali, the first day at the Senior Bowl was tremendous. Kid out of Marshall. Caught my eye immediately, caught others' eyes immediately, and unfortunately blew his pec and was gone. So he's around in the fifth. I like him a bunch. Devin Leary, most franchises want to add a quarterback at some point. He was better at NC State than he was the 1 year at Kentucky, but that doesn't mean he can't get back to that level again. Can he compete for a backup spot? I'm not looking at him to be a pure starter in the NFL. And then Say Mac, tough kid out of Michigan State, and then Kane, another tough kid out of Purdue. They kind of fit what Baltimore wants and being hard-nosed and hard-working type kids. But again, when you're picking in that level, these aren't the guys that you're looking as being difference makers, but don't be surprised if they don't develop into players.
Charles, indulge me for 10 seconds. I just want to tell you,
Sure.
It's one thing that you're as good at what you do as you are, and you know how I feel about you, and you guys are my favorite crew, and everybody knows that. But you have always been a friend, not just to me and to this show, but to everyone in this industry. And for you to take this time for us on a Monday morning after the week that you had in Detroit, I need you to know how much it means to me. And I truly appreciate it, and I truly appreciate you and everything you do for this business, my friend.
So, Glenn, I appreciate that very much, and I'll be succinct here. It works both ways, and that's what I try and tell the youngsters coming up, because when we're young, any radio show that calls, we're eager to do it, happy to do it. Let's be honest, we need to get out there as well, correct?
Yep.
I tell them all, though, I said, many of those people are very good to you young. When you kind of make it, quote unquote, don't just play the Nationals, don't just play this, don't just play that. Remember the ones that were there. And if those people are still there, I'm not saying you're on every single time, but don't start ghosting people.
No, Charles.
Glenn, I really appreciate you being so great to me over the years, and I hope that we will continue this relationship.
You know that's the case. Love you, brother. Really appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning, as always.
Always. You take care.
That's Charles Davis, the best. And I mean what I said there. And at a certain age, that has stood out to me a lot more, and I talk about it with certain guys. You know, it's funny because his broadcast partner is Ian, and everybody knows the relationship I've had with Ian. He's, a godsend to me in my life and what I've been able to do in this business. But Charles Davis just worked nonstop for a week in Detroit, like constantly. And what you see on the air, when you're doing that at that level, that's like a 10th of the work that you have to do. Because, again, he had to be able to say something about Nick Samac. So think about that. Because he's got to be able to do that for every kid that was taken. And by that point, you don't know if these kids are going to get taken. So my guess is he probably could have done that for a couple of the kids that the Ravens signed as undrafted free agents. So it does mean something to me that after that week and all of the work he did, that Charles Davis got a call from Griffin this morning and said, yeah, I'll be there. Like, that means a lot. And I've been doing this with Charles Davis for 20 years. Like he was doing the what do they call it when the bowl coalition series was that when they moved was it the BCS? But there was something before the BCS. There was some other nonsense thing that existed before the BCS did for college football, and he was doing the championship games. And I'm telling you, he would call in like the day of the championship game to my local radio show.
Yeah, Bowl Alliance, is that what
that's exactly what it was.
He would do He was the voice of Madden too. Like, all right,
Charles Davis is a star. Like, right. I mean, I'm not,
but I mean, like that.
I don't need
the amount of time that takes to record all the Madden sounds too.
But this is the time of year where you have time to do stuff like that. Like he's that's probably a godsend to him in the middle of May. Like, yeah, you got some work for me, absolutely, by all means. But no, I have gotten to a place where I just want to make sure that those people know what it means to me, that they're always willing to do it. And Harlan has always been that way with us. And Ian, of course, and Jim Nance. Jesus Christ, Jim Nance. I'll never understand that. He goes out of his way. But no, and I truly appreciate it, and I just want to make sure that I said that to him. All right, great stuff. And again, the Tez Walker thing, it's one thing when you use your first-round pick on a guy with questionable hands. And the Ravens have done that. Brashad Perriman was always a guy with questionable hands. And in the moment, I still wasn't even down on taking Brashad Perriman, in part because they were so desperate wide receiver that, like, you just got to take whatever's there, which was where they were, once upon a time with Mark Clayton, right? Like, they just had to take a wide receiver because they were desperate at wide receiver. It's completely different when you're talking about a 4th-round pick. Tez Walker's there. The question is, can he consistently catch the football? Because size, speed, even route running, I think he checks the box. But can he consistently catch the football? That, in the 4th round, is a risk worth taking. Now, they are thinner at wide receiver, and that is the danger. And we talked about this yesterday on the radio show. The danger is, because it's easy to say, well, there's no expectations. Well, today, that's fine. All of a sudden, 1 or 2 of these guys goes down in training camp, and you look up, and Tez Walker's your 3rd wide receiver. So it's easy to say today, you got all the time in the world to try to work on it with Tez Walker and figure it out. And yes, I do think it's a risk worth taking. But wide receiver depth matters too. I still think that they should probably sign one more street free agent there as well. I get it. They might say, well, we did that when we brought in Deontay Hardy. He's like our, in case of emergency, break glass. We know he's not really a wide receiver, but, you know, if we end up in hell due to injuries, then we're going to have to, you know, trot him out there and let him run around at wide receiver. I think you need to try to do better than that. I still think that they would be well served to bring in another veteran and let him compete. And I would be surprised if they didn't. But on board. Again, I was on board with like every pick. Like every pick I was just like, yeah, sure. Like I don't think a lot of Devin Leary. I don't. I get the thought process of the Ravens taking a quarterback. Like it's pretty clear they don't think, maybe again, Malik Cunningham is the guy that they say would be, you know, another in case of emergency break glass guy at wide receiver. They just don't seem to think anything of Malik Cunningham as a quarterback. I don't think highly of Devin Leary, but it's a 6th round pick. Like what am I supposed to think? I'm on board. All right, when we come back in, Jeremy Conn's going to join us. Later on today, Stay on the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson get back together. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. That's at 3:30 today ahead of this big 4-game set between the Orioles and the Yankees. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports to watch it live. Jeremy Conn next, Glenn Clark Radio.
Hartford Community College will host the National Junior College Athletic Association's 2024 Men's Lacrosse National Championship and Women's Lacrosse Invitational on May 11th and 12th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air, Maryland. The semifinals on May 11th include the Women's Invitational, with the Women's North A representative playing the Mid-Atlantic B representative at 10 a.m. and the Women's North B representative facing off against the Mid-Atlantic A representative at 12:30 p.m. For the men's championship, the number 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the quarterfinal round at 3:30 p.m. The men's number 2 seed will face off against the highest remaining seed at 6 p.m. May 12th is reserved for the national championship games at noon for the women and 4 p.m. for the men. Tickets are $20 each day at HartfordEvents.com or at the gate if available.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Oh, Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for ROFO Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well, then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for ROFO Rewards and upgrade to ROFO Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. The best spot to watch all of the playoff action. Everybody but the Phoenix Suns, who are deeply, deeply unserious. Deeply, deeply unserious. By the way, I'll say this out loud. I have thought all along that this is going to be a march to Denver winning a back-to-back title. I still would tell you I think that's going to be the ultimate scenario, but I'm coming around on Minnesota, and I'm coming around on Anthony Edwards. Like, all the nonsense that we said about Anthony Edwards, like, he reminds me of Jordan. Dude, I see it. That kid is special. Like a different type of special. Sorry. This is what I'm dealing with today. I still think the Suns are deeply unserious, and it's a joke, but the Timberwolves are legitimate, man. And it's not just Anthony Edwards. It's how they play defense. It's they can battle. I am not as confident as I was that the Nuggets win the West. And I know I'm being very disrespectful to Minnesota.
Just because you saw how bad the Suns looked?
No, not that. I
legit.
knew the Suns were unserious. I knew that coming into the playoffs. The Timberwolves are a different level. And I get it. I still need to be – I have not spent enough time watching the Thunder to know – what a series between the Thunder and whoever wins the Timberwolves-Nuggets series will look like. Like, I need to – I just don't know how they match up. And we'll learn a lot about that, whoever they end up playing. Boy, I really thought the Mavericks were going to roll there, but then they erased a 31-point debt. They were down 31 yesterday and got back into that game. But ultimately, sorry. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry. I'm doing everything I can to battle through it. It's if you knew how difficult, like this, I feel like Eeyore. Like I just want to go be, sorry, Pooh. Like I just want to be dead. Like I want to go. I don't want to deal with any of it. Yeah, what was I? I was talking about the Timberwolves. I'm in. I'm checking the box on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Watch all of the games. The best place to watch all of them is, of course, at Sports and Social, inside Live Casino and Hotel. Great atmospheres every night during the playoffs because everybody's got action on something. So everybody's living and dying over every shot. Go check them out. Sports and Social, inside Live Casino and Hotel. You can reserve your table on their website. You can reserve a blue reclining chair to enjoy the immaculate, massive media wall and all of the big events. You got to go into the desk at the FanDuel Sportsbook in order to reserve your reclining chairs. And there's a UFC fight this week, right?
There is, yes. It is UFC 302. We have
302?
Yeah. 301.
Yeah,
Sorry.
like,
sorry,
what did I
was
miss?
302. 302 is in Newark. I'm trying to figure out if that's
Oh,
gonna
you're going to
be-
go up, right?
I don't know, but because I
301.
had been to Newark. Yeah, 301.
301 is Saturday night.
In Brazil. Should be a fun.
Oh, what time does it start?
All the pay-per-views usually.
I mean, Brazil's only like an hour before us.
Yeah, so it'll start at like the pay-per-view will start at 10. So it'll be.
Isn't that like 11 Brazil?
Right?
Yeah, am I right that they're an hour ahead of us?
They'll do it anyway.
All right. Well, that's if you want to be there for that, they will be showing it inside Sports and Social Live Casino and Hotel. All right. Joining us now, as he does every Monday, hopefully he can do all of the radio and I can give my voice a rest. He is our friend from the Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. Jeremy Conn back with us now here on GCR. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, man? That sounds like a Suns fan's been yelling at the TV a little bit too much.
No. I had no emotional investment with the Suns this series. None. Zero. I was so checked out on the Suns going into the playoffs that honest to God, if you would have put the over-under at a half a game, I might have bet the under. Like, I might have bet that they were going to get swept out. This team, this group of guys never had an ounce of connectivity. They have looked all somehow the arrival of Bradley Beal ruined any amount of chemistry that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had before. I don't know how that's possible, because he barely played, but these
Can I give you the good news and bad news for the Suns?
Yeah, go ahead. No, there is no good news. What possible good news could there be?
Which one do you want, the good news first?
Yeah, go ahead. Give me the good news first.
They don't have any draft picks until 2027.
Fact.
And that the bad news is you have Bradley Beal for $50 million, $53 million, $57 million for the next 3 years. So with his money, you can't even afford draft picks. So that's why that's the good news.
It's Bradley Beal, though. Bradley Beal's going to score some points, right? That's what he does.
Yeah, sure.
No. Not only is he not going to score. Dude, Bradley Beal, what I saw last night, because like an idiot.
Did you smack his hand away?
Oh, my God. That's a different conversation. I mean, in fairness, this is the era of D'Angelo Russell not paying attention in the huddle. Like, Jordan Poole, who's never accomplished anything in his basketball career, thinking that he doesn't have to be involved in huddles and doesn't have to listen to
his team. He's already won a championship. Now it's his team to do whatever he wants.
That's what he is. In this era, none of that stuff surprises me, but what surprises me is how bad Bradley Beal is at basketball. Like, I knew he was never going to be the guy that, like, you know, for a couple of years looked like he was a special player in D.C., but, like, he wasn't helpful. He offered nothing. He missed layups last night.
I don't think he knows how to fit in with that team, and it's just causing everything else to just fall apart. Like, it does look like when you can have this too when you have teams with talented people. And look, I think Bradley Beal's good. He's not worth $50 million or anything like that, but I think he's better than people are going to give him credit for. But so many times I've seen this when you get other superstars and you have an alpha like KD, that guys just stand around and watch him. It's like, move, get away from him, move, get to an open spot, do something, knock down the shot when it's there. But the hard part is, like, even after the game, KD, it's typical KD stuff. He's passing the buck and blaming the coach for putting him in the corner. I mean, he played great, and then now he's got to point the finger at somebody else. So
yeah, it's embarrassing. It's deeply, deeply embarrassing. But let's stay on the NBA playoffs just for a minute, and then we'll cover some other things. Because I heard you on your show yesterday talking about, like, the Pacers as a viable championship contender, and that sounded extraordinary to me. And I'm not to say, look, they're getting the job done. Although the Bucks have no one. The Bucks are playing with, you know, like Drake's roster at this point. That said, I give them credit for what they've done. I know the East is not overwhelming, and it's still difficult for me to fully buy in on the Celtics, like, despite how many games they won. It seems extraordinary to me to think that the Pacers legitimately could win the NBA championship, because those three teams, and even I still think I like all four teams in the West that are going to play, and we don't even know who it'll be between Dallas and the Clippers yet. I still think I like all four teams over almost anyone in the East at this point.
So the weird thing, I asked the question to everybody on the show, like, do you think the Pacers are the real deal? Because I think they're going to be in the next round. So when you get to that Final Four, I mean, you have a shot. Do you think they can beat the other teams and get there? And I think because of style of play, they can. I really think they're going to miss Benny Mathurin, because he was a very good. He got put in the starting lineup, and they were using him as a sixth man, and he was really helping off the bench. And he's an aggressive scorer, which I like. But But yeah, I'm not sure that this team can do it all. But I'm not scared of any team in the Eastern Conference. Am I afraid to play the Knicks without Julius Randle? No. Am I? The same thing with the Sixers and how they've been playing and finding out Joel Embiid plays a little dirty at times. It's the same thing. And in Boston, I just think their coach sucks, man. I don't know what goes on with them sometimes where they're like, you're the most talented team on the floor. Like, how does Porzingis score 6 points against the Heat in a game? Like, how does that happen? It's just weird to me. And I agree with you. Like, I'm a Mavs fan, and this is the one year that I fully bought into them. And I think they lose the next game in LA with the way that I'm looking at the money and the point spread. It's going to make me take the Clippers and make me sick to my stomach. But I do think the Mavs could, if they win this series, could beat OKC, and then they would meet Denver. And it's always, somebody asked me the other day, who you taking, Jokic or Luka? And I'm like, well, it's two totally different players, but eerily do the same thing. It's kind of hard to get away from the two-time MVP, who's probably going to be a three-time MVP.
So, Jeremy, I have said all along that I think that this is all that we can enjoy the playoffs, but to me, it's always been a prelude to a back-to-back titles for the Nuggets, right? Like in a world right now, I really believe that if Jamal Murray had been healthy, they would already be a dynasty, and if he stays healthy, they will be a dynasty. But I'm trying to separate my. I thought nothing of the Suns coming into this series. Yet still, despite how little I thought of the Suns, I'm still overwhelmed by what I'm seeing from Minnesota. And I'm starting to feel real feelings about Ant. Like that the stuff that people said about him coming out of the draft that I thought was reckless, I'm starting to buy into. Like this dude looks like Michael Jordan at times. Like legitimately looks like that type of player. And their defense is insane. I'm not yet ready to say I think they can or will beat the Nuggets, but I guess I'm at a place where this is less of a prelude to a Nuggets championship to me than I felt like it was a week ago or whenever I started watching this series, because spending more time with Minnesota, like their defensive rotation, there was a moment last night where the only good thing the Suns did all night was their ball movement on one possession. And it felt like Minnesota had 7 guys on the floor defensively. Because their closeout defensively is nuts. Are they more game to battle the Nuggets than maybe I thought they were coming into the postseason?
I mean, I think so. I got a hiccup. Sorry. I think so because of the guy you mentioned, Ant. We compared it to when Ric Flair wrestled Shawn McMichael. And he gives him the I'm sorry, and it gives him the sweet chin music. That's what it felt like with Ant and KD, where he's just talking so much smack to him. Old man, you can't guard me. And then in a 2-point game last night, he crosses his man over, goes baseline, and dunks, and KD made a business decision. He went to jump and left his arms down because he knew he was going to be posterized.
It's over. Like, it's over.
Yeah.
That your era died over the course of the last week. LeBron won a game, but they're going to be done, I presume, tonight. KD's done. Like, it's over. There is a new era now, and God love you. Thank you for everything you did for basketball. But LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry aren't leading teams to championships any longer.
No, this is Tatum. I don't even need to use him first. Jokic, Luka. SGA now is one of those guys that you're going to look at, and there's more superstars. Like I think Ja's in that group when healthy,
when mentally healthy.
Yeah, that's fair. But there's a lot of just young talent that's coming in the league. And oh, by the way, I haven't even mentioned the alien and Victor Wembanyama, who is the real deal 10 times over. It's so absurd the things he did this year.
I am starting to worry that Anthony Edwards might be the I don't want to say the best of them because like Jokic is a unicorn. Like it's just, like what are you even watching when you watch him play?
You see these passes that he and Luka throw, and I throw him in the group with Luka because he's making as good or even better passes, and he's a freaking center.
Right. It's nuts. All right. Jeremy Conn is with us here on GCR. Hey, so you hear, like allergies have wrecked me. How difficult, have you gotten to an age where you're capable of calling out of work? Or are you still like everyone else in our business where you're like, I have to go to work every day. The world will end or I will lose my job if I don't go to work on a certain day.
That's me. I have called out. Don't get me wrong. It's got to be really bad for me to call out. But like I think I've gone in more and been sent home than I've actually called out in my time in radio. So where it's like, what are you doing here? You're sick. Go home. And I think I was sent home 3 times with Garceau because I lost my voice.
Yeah.
And then the problem with me was every time I lost my voice, it turned into, well, he's got to be out at the bars and losing his mind. And I'm like, maybe, but
yeah, I mean,
nowadays.
There is a problem with it. So I was working at News Radio 99.1 in DC, and for whatever insane reason, I forgot to take off because I always work Sunday mornings, and I forgot to take off the morning after the pig roast one year. And I showed up at still drunk probably with no voice. I mean, I couldn't, this in comparison would have been a godsend that particular morning. I couldn't form words. And I'm trying to do the bit because today it really is allergies. That's all it is. But I'm trying to do that bit with people there. I'm like, oh God, allergies really getting to me. And they're like, it's July. You get allergy problems in July? I'm like, yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know. It's like when you're talking about your ex and you're just like, oh, she's crazy. I don't know.
Well, I had the one moment when I was doing nights where just to be brutally honest, when I was drinking during the show and different things, and I kind of stopped drinking. So I would want to take my edibles about at 8:30 when the show ended at 9 because, it doesn't hit for an hour, but I want it to kick in when I'm ready to eat dinner and just relax. And it's a perfect setup, except one day, for whatever reason, it worked a little faster than I thought it was going to be. And I had a 3-minute segment at the end of the show. And I think what I said was, you want to do good, you want to be good, you want to play good. And I just kept saying that over and over again, to which my producer was like, what the hell did you just say? I was like, I don't know what I said.
Dude,
I don't remember anything.
I actually have to apologize to our editors here at Pressbox because I write a Monday column every week, right? I'm supposed to, for Pressbox, I'm supposed to write something that kind of sets the tone, right, editorially for the week. The problem is the weekends, and you know this from having kids, there's so much S going on. And now on top of it, I'm doing a radio show on Sundays, and then they're all playing baseball, and I've got play-by-play. And I don't actually get a second to think until about midnight on Sunday night. And by that point, my brain is barely functional. And I get to the end of a column and I have no idea how to close it out. And I'll go back and read some of the things that I wrote at 1:30 in the morning on a Sunday night. And I've been like, why did we publish that? Why did nobody say to me, first thing Monday morning, hey, Chief, you want another crack at that? You want another opportunity to try to tie it all together. I'm like, what was that? How did we decide that editorially that was good enough? Because,
how do you get to that point when there were some times when the radio station would make us write blogs, and I remember somebody coming in and said, we don't care what you write, just give us 6 sentences. And I'm like, well, that's crappy. I don't want to, if I'm going to put my effort into something, I'm going to try to write something I think's decent. And then you get to a point you're like, well, hell, they only told us to put 6 sentences in, and this isn't something I'm even being paid for. They just told me to do it to try to help them with their website or whatever.
Dude.
And so you know how it works in the industry, but I didn't want to do it.
You need to ask Haney sometime from the old radio station. When he walked in one day and said everybody must write 1 blog per day, and Haney. I swear to God, Haney would go on there and say something like, I'm on the radio today. That would be the entirety of what he blogged. And just to see if anybody noticed. Because he said, I think all they do is go back and look to see if he posted something every day. And as long as, I swear to God, he would post something that said, I'm on the radio today, John Rollo joins me. And that would be it. That would be the entirety.
See, but I love that for him because that feels like Haney.
100%.
Haney's a power to the people. Screw the man.
Dude, all right. I'm not going to go too far with this. So Drew came in here last week and said to me, did you know they're making a documentary about the old radio station? And I said, what? He said, well, I looked at him and said, are you in it? And he said, no, nobody reached out to me. And I said, well, nobody's reached out to me. So I don't know that it's a documentary. It just might be that guy
might be a biopic of the nasty one.
Correct. That's what I assumed it was. And by the way, I had one person that told me they looked at it and they had that confirmed. So I said to Drew, the shame about that is if somebody really did it, like if an actual filmmaker really wanted to make a doc about the rise and fall of that radio station, I think it would be unbelievably compelling. I just don't know.
And I'm not including myself in that, but if you think of all the talent that came out of it that's still working in this industry.
Stop it. You are a significant part of that conversation.
Well, I just don't want to be a douchebag.
I understand.
But I will call Nestor a douchebag. That helps.
No problem whatsoever. No problem there at all. I think it would be incredible to watch it, but we had that conversation, and Drew said, what's funny is that to me, if they were to make that, the centerpiece of the story would be Bob. And I said 1,000%.
Really?
1,000%. To
so
me,
I was just going to ask you what you thought the most interesting part of that story, or like the whole radio station. And in my opinion, it would be the stuff that people found out about Nestor that they didn't know. But the other one that's really off the wall, and maybe it was just a little bit before your time, would have been Swami, because he's one of the most interesting, insane, weird individuals I've ever been around. And I've loved him.
What a character, that guy. I did not know Swami, but Messina was home a couple summers ago, and we ended up getting together with him, and wow. Like, Messina said to me, Swami wants us to go watch him bowl. And I said, what? Like, what do you mean? He's like, no, that's really what he wants us to do with our evening, is go watch him bowl.
He almost got in a fist fight at a charity softball game because a guy hit a home run off of him so far. The guy didn't say anything. I mean, it's slow pitch softball. So the guy's walking around the bases, and Swami just yells at him, "You'll never do that again." And the guy's like, "What?" He goes, "You'll never get another hit off me again." And it's like, it's slow pitch softball. He goes, "Yeah, whatever, buddy." So the guy comes up to bat the next time. Swami throws the ball over the backstop. The next time he rolls it on the ground. He throws it overhand at the fence. And it's like, then they kick him out. They kick Swami out of the game. And I'm like, who gets thrown out of a charity softball game?
All right. So what you're talking about, that's
probably the weakest story I have on him, by the way.
Yeah,
so.
The most bombastic stories would be about Swami and the guy that owned the station. That part, I agree. I meant like the heart and soul of why the radio station worked. Like,
there's no question. It was Bob.
That to me was like that. If you did that story, why did that radio station? Why was a radio station that you couldn't hear outside of a 5 feet radius? Why did it become the centerpiece of sports conversation in our city? Well, it's because of Bob Haney. Bob Haney, to me, single-handedly made that radio station. That to me is more what I think the doc would end up telling the story of.
Well, when I emailed the radio station asking if I could come be an intern, I was listening to Mark Messina and Bob Haney, and so the first show I started on was helping Ray produce Bob Haney's show, and that's where I kind of like cut my teeth and learned everything. And then they asked me if I wanted to go to the morning show, which fit perfectly with me delivering pizzas. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I did that for a while, but like the stories from walking in there and finding dead animals in the house, a deer walking in the house because someone left the front door open, random dogs in the neighborhood. We've had the meetings we had in the basement and some of the weird stuff that went on there. Like me leaving naked pictures of dudes on everyone's computer back then. Anytime they got up to go to the bathroom, that was something that happened. So
all of it, all of it, 1,000%. One of my favorite deadpan things that Ray Bachman used to do was when like we were pulling a guest on and he didn't know him at all. Like he'd be like, "All right, we're gonna get you up here with Rob. Hey, real quick, take your shirt off." And like Vinny Iyer or somebody like that would be like, "What? What?" He'd be like, "Yeah. These go better if you take your shirt off." Just
man,
the timing for an audience of one person.
About that, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, I'm just going to say, like, the sad thing about that station was there were so many good things about it that one person ruined because they made it all about themselves.
Correct. No, it's the way that Rob and I have talked about this before. Like, to me, it was Barstool Sports before there was Barstool Sports. Like, we figured that out, which was why I was literally willing to come from the other side of the country to try to be a part of it. And then I got there 2 weeks later, and they said, "Oh, we're getting rid of all the good people." And I said, "Oh, cool. glad I made that choice in my life. Glad
Great.
That's a decision that I made." All right,
man.
Anything on the draft? Any thoughts?
I mean, I like what the Ravens did. We had KZ on today, and I know you guys talked to him yesterday. He thought the Steelers had one of the best drafts. But I think the Ravens did a very good job in getting some of these players. I like hearing what some of the scouts have to say about the guys. And I know there has to be some point in life where we get past listening to the guys that just cover the sport and write about it and think that's the way the draft's supposed to go, instead of the guys that are actually breaking down the film of said player and seeing if they fit. I still don't know what Atlanta was doing, and the best quote was from their GM after the draft saying, "Yeah, we didn't fill all of our needs, but we didn't want to reach." You did on your first pick. Right. So, like it's kind of a weird thing, but I think the Ravens did a really good job. I think Dr. Rosen at right tackle is going to be great. So I'm good with it.
Charles Davis just told me he thinks that they should prioritize Rosengarten being a left tackle. Like, he thinks they should just let Faalele play right tackle and start working, that rotation thing with Ronnie Stanley this year, with the idea of Rosengarten being their left tackle moving forward.
I get it, but, with the fact that he played right tackle in college, doesn't it seem like a perfect fit because he was guarding Penix's blindside?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thought. And then what my gut tells me that for this week, the Orioles have a 6-man rotation, and basically Cole Irvin and Dean Kramer are auditioning for their jobs every time they pitch moving forward. But what say it obviously Bradish is going to pitch this week. They have to put John Means back on the roster because his time's up. What do they do with all of this?
I think Suarez goes to the bullpen, and I think you're absolutely right. It's a debate over, is it Cole Irvin or Dean Kramer? Do you want another lefty? Like, Cole Irvin's been really good, especially his last 2 starts. So maybe you're right. Maybe they do a little bit of a 6-man rotation, but I think we have to get to a point too where we look at the Orioles and say, hey, like they're bringing back 2 starters, one of which just threw 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 hit ball. And then the other guy that had one of the best ERAs in the American League. And they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, you're going to put those 2 guys in the rotation and figure out which 2 you're taking out.
Right.
And it's not Burns. It's not Grayson.
Yep.
So you've got to jostle the other players and figure out what you're going to do. Tyler Wilson's injury, he's going to go back to the bullpen, even though he worked all off season to be a starter. So I think that's just what happens. And then at some point, just to be brutally honest, some injury is going to work itself out here. And, it just kind of always does.
Well, and for 1 week, you can do the 6-man thing because you don't have a day off this week. But then the following week, you literally I hate the weeks in baseball where they do these 2-game series, the Nationals, and there's 2 off days. It's so insanely stupid. You go from a week where you don't have an off day to a week where you have 2 off days. So they're going to get a week, to me, to settle this out. And I legitimately believe that Dean Kramer and Cole Irvin are pitching for their rotation life this week. Like and it's a great problem to have if they both pitch really well and you still have to kick one of them out of the rotation. But, that's the reality. If one of them stinks this week, they're probably not going to make the next start after that.
Yeah, but I mean, do they look at it too? Like, Cole Irvin's pitched out of the bullpen. Is it something Kramer could do? It doesn't matter what he wants, you know what I mean? But you're asking a guy to do something a little bit different. We saw Tyler Wilson's velocity go up, and it's a different process.
I'm trying to figure out who Tyler
that.
Wilson is. Did you know a guy named Tyler Wilson?
What the hell's wrong with me?
It's fine.
Tyler Wilson.
I do this. I still do this with the Lipscomb in D.C., who I call him Trey Holcomb instead of Trey Lipscomb every time, and it's specifically because there was a girl that I was sweet on when I was in high school whose name was Holcomb, and I don't know what it is. I always think about her in those moments.
Yeah, there was a girl I was sweet on in high school. Her name was Lipschitz, so it was she was a good-looking girl.
Yeah,
but,
oddly, there was a girl that was
there
was someone you were sweet on in high school that was named Tyler Wilson. That was the weird part.
So is there a Tyler Wilson? I'm so pissed at myself. Maybe I was just looking at pictures of Zach Wilson and thinking of Tyler Wilson.
That might be what it is.
Who knows? Who doesn't look at pictures of Zach Wilson? But, yeah, I think
we all do this.
Stuff works itself out.
We all do this. It's just a question of how we got there. That's always, to me, the question in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And how much,
slips.
Yeah. How much criticism for Brandon Hyde for leaving Craig Kimbrell in when he clearly couldn't throw a second pitch yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to have those moments where I don't think he's devoid of criticism, like I said. I didn't like at times how the bullpen's been used. That's a debate. We could sit here and talk about what happened with Jackson Holiday. I don't like that Heston Kjersted's just been sitting. But, here we are. And then we had Jorge Mateo start against a righty yesterday, which is fine. But, the weird thing about this is we had the bullpen blow 2 saves. And you could have swept them, and now you go 1-2 against one of the worst teams in baseball. So.
Yeah, well, hey, at least when they put in Ryan McKenna for his defense, he came through. At least they had that.
Oh, my God. I still don't know why he's here, but anyway.
Makes no sense. All right, what's coming up this week?
Yeah, so it's still going to be Rob and I, and Rob's headed to Cincinnati. I don't know if it's this week or next week with the Orioles. And I think Ed will be coming back soon in the next week or two.
Maybe all hopped up on pain pills. That'll be fun.
Probably. He had shoulder surgery. We've talked to him some. I've been sending him things he should watch on TV. I think I sent him. He watched Baby Reindeer, which I loved, and he just started watching Afterlife. So I want to find out if he liked it.
I have not watched Baby Reindeer. Give me the rundown.
Oh, Baby Reindeer is amazing. So it's about a guy who works at a bar and he's trying to become a stand-up comedian. And there's like this talent show, and this woman walks into the bar and he asks her what she wants to drink, and she's like, I don't need anything. He's like, you got to drink something. She goes, I don't have any money. And he goes, well, let me buy you a cup of tea. And then just that moment, she becomes a stalker, and it's based on a true story. So like she becomes a stalker, and then you find out more about that guy and what's going on in his life and all the mistakes he makes. And I'm not going to ruin anything. At the very end, he's doing his stand-up comedy in this almost like a talent show. And it's some of the most cringeworthy, uncomfortable thing I've ever watched, and I loved every effing second of it.
Oh, you have sold me. I needed something to watch now that I did a Entourage rewatch in the last month.
Oh, 7 episodes of that. Have you watched Shogun? Because I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard great things.
Griffin keeps trying to sell me on it. I don't even know if he's watched it as much as he's just like everybody's talking about it. I haven't watched that either. So but Baby Reindeer's next. That's going to the top of the list now.
7 episodes, man. It's really, really good. I watched it all in one sitting.
I will report back to you by next Monday. Oh, John Colson's a fan as well. All right, we will have a conversation about it next Monday. All right.
Sounds good, man.
Love you, buddy. Appreciate you.
I'll see you guys.
That's Jeremy Conn, 105.7 The Fan, joins us every Monday here on GCR. Limping to the finish line. Dylan, what else did you have prepared for the show? What else did you have a segment prepared? Did you have an interpretive dance that you wanted to do? What else did you have prepared for a Monday?
I mean, I don't have any interpretive dance prepared, but it just
Why not?
occurred to me.
That's sort of part of the assumption that you come in to do the show, that you have your interpretive dance prepared.
Well, because one of the reasons I'm not an athlete is I blew out my knee a while back.
I
don't move that well.
Yeah, well, you still got to try to make do. Do you have any cartilage left, or
mostly?
Who was it that fell in the draft because somebody said they have no meniscus?
That was Peyton Wilson, right? No, he has
right.
no ACL.
No ACL. That's what it was.
And
no ACL. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Where did they get him? What round?
The late third,
and he was thought of as a fringe first rounder.
Yes.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see. It's and at that point in the draft,
guys that don't have
a
ACLs
risk
before,
worth taking.
so, yeah.
Yes, a risk worth taking at that point in the draft, and could be that the Steelers end up looking very smart. Did a lot on their offense. I mean, look, man, you all know the only guy that I ever really fell in love with during this draft cycle was Troy Fountainu, and effing course. Now, if there's good news for you guys, other guys that I have fallen in love with during draft season include Anthony Miller, who largely flamed out.
That's the wide receiver?
The wide receiver out of Memphis. I
went to the Bears,
was obsessed. Right? Yep, went to the Bears. I blame them. I was in love with Corey. I mean, I wanted to move in with Corey Davis. Corey Davis to me was Anquan Bolden reincarnate.
I fell in love with Cooper DeJean this draft process, and
yeah, I never felt that way about.
I liked Cooper DeJean a lot. So when he was there at 30, I was almost. I shocked myself. I allowed myself to be shocked when they took Nate Wiggins because I was like, oh my god, I love Cooper DeJean.
I did not feel all that strongly.
I thought there was a chance he was going to go top 15. So I was like, wow.
I liked Tyler Guyton a lot, but I feel like it was me forcing myself to like Tyler Guyton because I thought it was like eating. It was like eating your vegetables. You know what I mean? Like you've got to learn to be
right. Well, yeah.
an asparagus
once
guy.
The Packers took Jordan Morgan, I was like, yes, great, we got Tyler. Guyton.
It was never that I was all hot and bothered about Tyler Guyton. I'm telling you, I was hot and. Troy Fountainu made me feel away. It was like that GIF from Glee of the late line Naya Rivera doing this number. That was me thinking about Troy Fountainu during the draft process.
I never felt.
God, whoever we had on the draft segment after the combine, where I brought up Troy Fountainu, and it was somebody significant. As I remember them being very bold. Glenn, forget it. Stop thinking about Troy Fountainu. You're not gonna get him. You're not getting close. Just give up now. It is over. And I was like, damn it. And in fairness, Corey Davis never got anywhere close to the Ravens that year either. He ended up being, the 8th overall pick.
Yeah, he was a top 10 pick, so maybe for the best. Maybe he would have. Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, ready, preparing me to eat my vegetables. I was really convincing myself how excited I was about Tyler Guyton. That's going to be the guy. All right, Tyler Guyton. That's your left tackle for the next after this season for the next 10 years.
20 years, yeah.
But I never. It wasn't real. It was just me. It was it was conditioning exercise. I was conditioning myself to accept that Tyler Guyton was the answer. So I was bummed. I was bummed at that point that it wasn't the answer. That was a real bummer. Anything else that you had? Any thoughts?
The
queries,
one I was high on
concerns,
was
comments?
Trey Taylor. I had to write the article on him last week. I thought highly of him. Love hearing how he learned from Ed Reed.
Where did
and
he
all
end up
the-
going?
He went
Raiders.
Raiders. What round?
7th round.
7th round?
I know, right?
Jim Thorpe Award winner, the top defensive back in the country, fell all the way to the 7th round.
Yeah,
I get it. I mean, the competition.
Bo Braid fell out. Like I was surprised after.
I wasn't
I guess,
stunned
yeah.
by Bo Braid. Like, I get it. And one of the things I said, like a lot of people yesterday said, well, I think he's going to have a great chance to make the team. I'm like, the problem with Bo Braid is that his value really is in what he can do on multi-layers. Like, his value is, it's in its stretch. I absolutely was not trying to make him Kyle Hamilton when we had that conversation. But it's that concept. It's that so many different ways to go about using him, and you're just not going to do that with an undrafted free agent. Like, you're not going to say to an undrafted free agent, you can have the chance to play. We're gonna figure out ways to utilize you as a weapon. You got to be able to play a role. Now, Bo Braid, I don't know enough about him as a special teams guy. Like,
Right.
that's obviously his path to the roster now moving forward. Is does he settle in? And that's even more confounding because we don't know with the new kickoff rules like what you want in a special teams player anymore. Like, again, the argument that I heard from my buddy Jamie Sharper, who was the special teams coordinator in the XFL, is that you want more like outside linebackers and leverage guys. You want more tight ends now with the new kickoff rules than you want speedsters going down the field. So that will be interesting to see. My gut tells me that after this season, if the rules stay the same, that the teams push for another couple of roster spots, specifically because the different types of special teams players they need are so different. If, again, that proves to be, if Jamie Sharper's right about what you're looking for in a special teamer. So that'll be interesting. I love Bo Braid. Love Bo Braid. I'll be rooting like hell for him. But I think it's a tough spot for him. I think you needed to see a team commit to drafting him and saying, we know what you can be as a weapon. We're going to work through. We're going to get there together. So I hope the Ravens feel that way about him.
They got to fill Geno Stone's shoes. Like,
well, they drafted a guy in the 7th round.
Oh, that's right. They did draft that guy in the 7th
They
round. Okay.
did.
So,
They
yes,
did
do
do
have
that.
I guess, and Pepe Williams, we'll see what they want to do with him.
Because all of a sudden Pepe Williams is like their 7th corner. So, yeah, you could see them using him more as a safety too. But I still hope for the best. I want it to work out for Bo Braid. I think it'd be a great story. Is that it? Do we do everything that we need to do here?
I think that is
all right, let's go. Let's rest my voice.
Okay.
Today's show has also been brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is, did you do something in the print issue?
No, I wish I did.
Wow. Sorry, now it's a sore subject. Now I feel like an awkward jerk. But it's still great. And in fact, I would say it's better, no offense, because you're not involved. I don't mean that. Go get it for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Grayson Rodriguez on the cover of this month's print issue of Pressbox. Tidbit is brought to you today by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. It's everything you love about the original Atman's, but now also they have a bar. AtmansDeli.com is the website. Find out more about the daily specials. Corned beef piled high. Delicious breakfast with the hand-rolled bagels, the soups, the desserts. It's all there, plus a full bar. Great place to hang out before and after games. AtmansDeli.com to find out more about Atman's Deli in Harbor Point.
Just have you do the reads from now on, and you want me to run tubular? And
Yeah, I just said it's a tidbit. Do that.
I know, but I can read tubular for you too, so that way you don't have to talk.
Fine, go.
The Mavericks, they became the first team ever to lose an NBA playoff game last night, to lose in regulation, a playoff game in regulation, while having one player score 40 points. Kyrie dropped 40 yesterday, and another player have a triple-double. Luka had a triple-double, and the Mavs became the first team to ever lose while having two players to achieve both of those things in a playoff game. So tough days for the Mavs as the Clippers look maybe a little bit better than. Do you have a team that you think comes out of that series?
No, I don't. I really thought the Clippers had kind of packed it in, and then yesterday happened. So
Best of 3 now.
Like I think the Mavs are the better team, but I've just the body language of the Clippers looked like the body language of the Suns. They look disinterested, and so I don't know what to make of a team that looked disinterested, then turning around, not only building up a 31-point lead, but then dude, you erase a 31-point lead, that other team should be, all right, 1, 2, 3 Cancun at that point. That was really stunning to me what happened yesterday in that series.
The Falcons, they are now the first team in the common draft era to select skill position players in the top 8 in 4 consecutive drafts. 4 straight drafts. They've taken a skill position player with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan last year, and now Michael Penix, all in the top 8. There had been 2 teams that had done it in 3 straight drafts to take a position or a skill position player on the offense. In 3 straight drafts. The Falcons now did it in 4, all in the top 8. All in the top 8.
How would I know this?
02 to 04.
This is way too specific. I mean, my God.
And then 07, 09.
All right, I'm just going to throw out some team
I'll
names.
just give it to you, I
no,
guess.
I'll throw out some team names, and we'll see.
If these teams were not good,
the Bengals.
No, not the Bengals.
The Cardinals.
Not the Cardinals.
The Saints.
2000s, right? Not the Saints.
The Panthers.
Not the Panthers.
The Raiders.
The Raiders from 07 to 09. So we saw how that.
Go ahead, Dylan. You tell us.
The Bears?
No. You got to guess the players.
Oh, no. I'm not going to get that. Whew.
Marcus Russell was one of them.
I thought we were doing that.
I thought you wanted to.
Whatever. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to have you guess
this
it,
is
but
bad then. Let's just tell me. Do you have something else?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
the other team was also the Lions in 02 to 04. So we saw that this.
That's before Calvin. Who the hell was that? God, who was 02 to 04? Calvin wasn't 04, right?
He was. Sorry, I'm pulling it up.
You don't have it. All right, fine. Just move on. This was bad. This was
Williams
bad.
was the last one.
Roy
When
Williams.
When was Calvin? He was 07.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was before Calvin.
And then which school had the most draft picks
this year?
Yes. See if you can name the top 4 that had double-digit draft picks drafted.
Michigan.
Michigan, number 1. How many players? And name all of them?
Stop that.
13 players drafted by Michigan. Drafted from Michigan.
Oklahoma,
not in the top 8.
Washington
was in the top 4. They had 10 players drafted.
Alabama,
just outside the top 4. They had 9.
Suck.
Yeah. They do. That means 2 more schools.
Clemson still somehow, despite not being very good.
Not Clemson.
Ohio State?
Not Ohio State.
Florida State.
Florida State had 10, yes.
How about I'm just going to start naming schools. LSU.
Not LSU. It was
Florida.
The other team that was in the
Texas.
playoffs. Texas. Texas had 11 players. So Michigan, Texas, Washington, Florida State. The only 4 schools with double-digit draft picks.
Sorry, Proctor was trying to get guesses in. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry, Proctor. I love you. God bless you. I'm so checked out at this point. It's bad. It's bad. It's just a bad day. Tubular brought to you by County Sports Zone and your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. All the latest in a high school sports, find it at countysports.zone. It's brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Go ahead. You can read it.
Clark Schmidt on the bump for the Yankees as they take on the Orioles in Grayson at 6:30 on Masson. Masson 2 is going to have the Nats and the Marlins. National TV game, FS1, Twins White Sox coming on. The red-hot White Sox.
Break them up. Swept the
Rays.
White-hot
White Sox.
Swept them.
7:30 on FS1. MLB Network will have Dodgers D-backs at 9:30 on TNT and True TV. Will be the NBA playoffs doubleheader on Turner, I guess. So NBA TV.
What are the
has
games?
Thunder Pelicans.
Okay.
And then you have Celtics Heat game 4 at 7:30 on TNT. Lakers Nuggets game 5 at 10.
Okay.
Stanley Cup playoffs. Lightning Panthers.
So the Lakers and the Thunder can close out their series.
I think they all can.
What's the other game?
Celtics Heat. 3-1.
Yeah. So the Celtics could close that out too.
No, they can't. No, they can't. Sorry, it is 2-1 Celtics Heat.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
game 4
thought they were
tonight.
up
I don't know.
3-1.
Yeah, I thought it was game 5
Okay.
tonight. It's game 4 tonight. So yeah, that one's not an elimination game. But Lakers Nuggets is, Thunder Pelicans also an elimination game. Stanley Cup playoffs: Lightning Panthers Game 5, Stars Golden Knights Game 4 at 9:30. It's an ESPN doubleheader for that one, and then WWE Raw at 8 on the USA Network. Non-sports wise, not a whole lot. MasterChef Junior at 8 on Fox.
Best show on television.
All-American, also at 8 on the CW. Anne Hathaway is going to be on Jimmy Fallon. There's a movie coming out on Prime Video, on Amazon Prime on Friday called The Idea of You, where she has a relationship with like a 20-something boy band, guy in a boy band. And that's why
I'm actually intrigued by this for some
like,
reason.
Okay, Anne Hathaway
I'm actually
kind of.
I might be listening to this.
Jim Gaffigan's on Seth Meyers. So have you heard of about the Unfrosted movie that's coming out Friday?
No.
I believe it's on Netflix. But Jerry Seinfeld and Melissa McCarthy are in it, and it's like it's like based on, I guess it's based on it's Unfrosted, the Pop-Tart story. So in 1963, Kellogg's and Post were racing to create a pastry to change the face of breakfast forever.
Okay, this is not a premise that works for me. It will.
Jerry Seinfeld's in it. Melissa McCarthy. Bill Burr is JFK. I'm not
What?
sure how that gets in there, but Christian Slater's in it. Peter Dinklage, and there's a ton of other cameos that.
All right,
like,
so they're obviously playing to the absurd. I don't know.
I'm interested.
All right, I'll let you be interested.
And that's
report back.
Emily
I'll be
Blunt
watching
will on
Baby
Kimmel.
Reindeer.
Oh yeah, okay. Emily Blunt will be on Kimmel. Fall Guy comes out. Is that this week? I guess it is this week.
It's not out yet.
The Fall Guy? No.
It feels like we've been talking about it for 6 months.
This is the rollout that they're doing.
Jeez.
I don't think it's out. Is it out yet?
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah. Owen Teague, I think he's one of the apes in the Kingdom of the Apes. That's coming out later this month, or no, May. In May. Leon Bridges, also on Kimmel. So.
He was at Stagecoach over the weekend. I didn't watch any of it, but I love Leon Bridges, so I'd be inclined to. All right, we good?
I think so.
I'm sorry, everyone. We'll try again tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have a little more use of my voice by that point. Dylan, thank you for all of your hard work this semester, first of all. Wish you well. You are on social media where?
I'm on Instagram, DM Steinwittle5872.
If you are looking to hire someone for writing reasons, for, I don't know, maybe feet pictures, something like that. He needs opportunities. He's a young man. Hit him up again. Share it one more time.
DM Steinwittle at 5872.
Very good. Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it.
Well,
Sorry I haven't been more engaged today.
No, I just wanted to say thank you all for all the people at Pressbox for giving me this opportunity. It's been a lot of fun, and I've really appreciated it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Thanks today to Charles Davis and to Jeremy Conn. We'll get it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Anything tomorrow?
Stuff and things.
All right.
Normal Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes, as
We
well.
gotta ramp up.
I agree.
Thanks everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners: Live Casino and Hotel, Atman's Deli, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Casa Sin, MSAA, Hartford Community College, Glory Days Grill, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.